Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of the award-winning Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein. This week's guest is the perfect person to kick off the start of the 2026 Major League Baseball season. The president of the back-to-back world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, Stan Kasten. Stan and I go way back to the start of my NBA career, when Stan was running the Atlanta Hawks, and I was just trying to figure it out as a young sports photographer. Stan was always friendly and approachable, and still is. He has had incredible success in his career. At one time, Stan was running 3 of Atlanta's sports franchises owned by the great Ted Turner, the Hawks, the Braves, and the NHL's Thrashers. Stan then went north to Washington, D.C., and helped bring the Washington Nationals into existence. As if that wasn't enough, Stan then led the group that purchased the Dodgers and now has come full circle back into the NBA with the Lakers. Stan's personal history is fascinating, and we talk about that on this episode, as well as his career journey. Stan has no plans to retire, and his enthusiasm and work ethic are truly inspiring. Happy start of the new baseball season, everyone. Enjoy this conversation with the legendary Stan Kasten, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. So Stan, I gotta welcome Stan Kasten, president and part owner of the world champion, the back-to-back world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, to the Legends of Sport podcast. That's my formal greeting to you, Stan. But you and I have known each other, my friend. I hate to even say it, but we probably known each other 40 years.
Probably, yeah.
At least.
Yep.
And it's so great to see you. You're such a friendly face whenever I go to Dodger Stadium, of course, and I used to see you at Crypto.com Arena and Staples Center. But going way back, Stan, let's go way back to the days in Atlanta, right? Back to the old Omni with the egg crate ceiling.
Yeah.
Where you and I first met, and I was a up and coming young whippersnapper, probably a pain in the ass to be frank, photographer, working with another good friend of ours, Scott Cunningham. So together we were like I don't know, Tom and Jerry out there. We were just bananas. But I used to come into the Omni, and you always were so friendly and greeted me, and I'll never forget that, because I was starting my career, and somebody at your stature being nice to me went a long way. I got to tell you.
You know what, you say that, I don't know if that's true or not, but
It is true.
thank you.
Yeah.
I have never forgotten the GMs, and I was a very young GM. I had no reason to be a GM other than I had an owner who was so different that when he did off the wall things, they kind of worked out. And so here I am, a GM with no natural constituency. I wasn't a former coach. I wasn't a former player. So I had to learn fast. But some of the senior guys in the league just were so kind to me immediately. I'm thinking of Pat Williams, Eddie Donovan, a whole lot of the guys, but foremost among them was Jerry West.
Yeah.
He always had time to talk to me. And by the way, every call took an hour, but I was happy for every minute he spent with me. So it's interesting you say that, because I remember those things as well.
Yeah. Wow, Jerry, we miss him so much. He was one, I've been doing this podcast 8 years, probably around 200 episodes. And one of my favorite people, one of my favorite interviews, because Jerry was so forthcoming, especially about his mental health struggles, which kind of got pushed under the rug when his book came out. And just a fabulous guy to be around, man.
Wait, I have to ask you something.
Yeah.
I'm number 200 on your list.
It might be 201.
It took you had to get through 200 people first.
Well,
before you reached out to me.
Here's the problem, Stan. I got to go through a lot of layers over there. I got to go through Brenner. I got to go through Lod. It's like a lot. So, but I will say that I've been trying to get you on for a while. I was very fortunate to have your fellow owner, Peter Guber, on a while ago, who's actually one of my great friends and mentors. So, here we are, man. I've been reading a lot about you, Stan. We're watching some interviews and some stories about you. And, I know you grew up in Jersey, a Yankee fan. I don't even want to say that because my whole family were Brooklyn Dodger fans, so we can't even go there. You know what I mean?
Well, let me tell you something. I run into people today
Yeah.
wearing Yankees hats.
Uh-huh.
And I go up to them and I say, I have good news for you people. You can get over that like I did. So don't worry.
I love it.
Don't,
I love it.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. Well, very quick story. I grew up in Brooklyn. I was born in 58, the year the Dodgers moved. Okay. So my family, everyone else hated the Dodgers, but they hated the Yankees worse, more. So I couldn't become a Yankee fan when I was a kid. I had to become a Mets fan, which was, the most anxiety you could possibly
Painful
have.
for a few years. Yeah.
But in 69, the Mets win the World Series. I'm 11 years old. Gil Hodges literally lived down the street from me, the manager. So it was a wonderful childhood of hating the Yankees. Yes. My dad once ripped up a Mickey Mantle baseball card in front of me. He said, "Don't ever bring anything with that, you know what, logo
Get
in this
out of
house."
here.
I'm serious, man. So, um, yeah. So anyway, so you go to NYU, right? And then you went to Columbia, right?
Yeah.
So how do you? I'm missing part of the story about how you ended up in Atlanta. I mean, I know what happened when you got to Atlanta, but how did you get to Atlanta?
I just finished law school at
Hmm.
Columbia, and I
Yeah.
just finished taking the bar exams of two states, New York and New Jersey. I passed both, and before I started work, I took a trip with my wife for a vacation, driving around the country, doing actually, ironically, what I do now. I go around and just go to ball games. And at one game, one night, I met a wild, brand new owner of the Braves in St. Louis. We were at the Cardinals
Uh-huh.
playing the Braves, and I just said, "What the hell? I'll go up and talk him up after the game and see where it leads." And
Yeah.
we had some correspondence and conversations. He invited me down at the end of that season, the '76 season, and I have lived in Atlanta ever since.
Yeah. But did you go to law school to become like a sports lawyer? Did you? I mean,
You
like
know,
what was the career?
I
Yeah.
did a lot of studying on my own.
Uh-huh.
I hoped someday to be in the sports world.
Uh-huh.
I even went to agent seminars.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid that would have ever happened to me,
Yeah.
but at least I knew the things that were going through their minds. So I
Yeah.
assumed I would go on and try to be the best lawyer I could be
Mm-hmm.
first. My background was in antitrust law, and I was prepared to get to work on that at a New York antitrust law firm when Ted gave me his offer. And
Uh-huh.
as I said, I've lived in Atlanta ever since.
That's so interesting. You know, my mom, I don't know if you know, well, you might know this, but my mom, when she remarried, she moved to Atlanta. My grandmother was living there. She was kind of in ill health. My elderly aunt lived in Atlanta. And I'd go to Hawks games and stay at my mom's house. My mom would pick me up at the airport with all my gear.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Atlanta Jewish community, what surprised me was so active.
Very robust.
Yeah,
And it still is. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah. My mom became the theater director for the teen theater. She actually created it at the Atlanta Jewish Community Center. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah. Um, so the lesson in that for young people that might be listening here is that don't be afraid to go up to somebody who might actually like help you. or
It's the Wayne Gretzky advice. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
had nothing to lose.
yeah. Unbelievable.
I
Well,
did
Stan,
not expect. I did not expect this. I did
yeah.
not expect
No,
this.
no. So let's talk about this. Let's go back to those days in the '80s when you were leading the Hawks, and our paths crossed many times. I mean, it was an unbelievable run by the Hawks. Led by the human highlight film himself, Dominique Wilkins. You became. I thought this was a typo. You became the GM of the Hawks at 27 years old.
Yeah, yeah. As I said,
Okay. Yeah.
it, you have to have the right circumstances
Yeah.
and a particular owner willing to do that. But I had been with him for 2 years at that point. He
Hmm.
had gotten to like me, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
And when there was an opening because the prior GM had not worked out,
Hmm.
and I guess the only one left standing was me. Stan, you're the GM, and so I had to work hard. I had
Yeah.
to work hard, but
Yeah.
within a couple of years, we'd had success and I was winning awards.
Mm-hmm.
That's
right.
The awards for Executive of the Year was particularly meaningful to me
Mm-hmm.
because that was voted on by the other executives, by the other GMs. And as I told you, I started out not knowing anyone. And for them to express that kind of appreciation for me was very, very meaningful.
Amazing.
I remember getting the call. It was from David Stern at home at night. He and I had both gone to Columbia Law School. He and I had gotten to be very friendly, and he really enjoyed making that call.
Well, he was my godfather. He was my mentor. I mean, my boss, of course, but Uncle David, I still talk about him like that. I mean, the Hawks had an incredible run. First of all, the city got behind them. They were successful, right? You guys had 4 straight 50-win seasons from 86 to 89. You had a franchise record in attendance, right? 7 straight playoff appearances going into the 90s. I don't think people really give the Hawks, honestly, Stan, I don't think people really give the Hawks as much credit as they're due.
And that's because we were often the second best team in the East.
Exactly.
We were never the best team. We were always stuck behind the Bird Celtics, or for a couple of years, the Isaiah Pistons, and then the Jordan Bulls. We always had that problem. But we were good and we were entertaining, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I shot a lot of those matchups. I would come down for the Bulls and the Celtics and the Piston games. And it was a raucous place, man. I mean, I loved coming into the Omni. Although the Omni, correct me if I'm wrong, was like a really quirky place to work. First of all, no 2 lines aligned inside the Omni. It would drive you crazy visually.
It was an old-timey building. You know, it was built in a hurry. I would say not on the cheap, but without a lot of modern flourishes before flourishes started happening to arenas. It worked for us, but Phillips Arena was a huge improvement and a very necessary.
Oh, what a beautiful place that was. I was in shock, honestly, when I first came in. I'd never been in a building where you had the suites all on one sideline. It was amazing.
And because of that, we got the upper deck way down low, 4 stories closer to center ice than any other hockey arena.
Yeah, incredible. So Stan, not to put too much on your plate by Mr. Turner, God bless him, but he started piling on with other teams. All of a sudden, you're heading the helm of the Braves, which were pretty darn good back in the day, and then, not to give you any sleep whatsoever, you got to start an NHL franchise when one had already failed down in Atlanta. How the hell did you do it, man?
I tell people this story. So when Ted wanted me to take over the second team, because the Hawks were on a really good run, as I said, I was winning awards, but we really needed the Braves more than we need the Hawks as a company, because the Braves were our most important programming on TBS. And he said he needs me to take over the Braves, not instead of the Hawks, in addition to Hawks. I go, Ted, no, that's insane. He says, Stan, it'll be great. You can do it. You'll be the only guy running 2 teams. Isn't that right? I go, yeah, Ted, do you know why that is? Because it's such a bad idea. But Ted and I had this understanding. When he and I disagreed on anything, we just did things his way. And that's how I became the president of 2 teams, later 3 teams and an arena. So
incredible. What was it like? I mean, I remember when the Flames came to Atlanta, and I was a kid, and my mom had just moved there, and we'd go to, and I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in Madison Square Garden as a Ranger fan. I knew hockey rules. I played hockey, and you'd go to games in Atlanta, and they'd have to explain the whistles. Like, okay, that was icing. The puck went over 2 lines without, blah, blah, blah. And it was a hard sell, obviously. And then you got to bring another team into Atlanta.
The problem in Atlanta was always the lack of a broadcast arrangement. There just wasn't. We always had a core of fans, even with the second iteration, even with the Thrashers. There's a core of fans that would sell out the building, but not enough to really follow on TV. And without that, it wasn't viable. Years later, after I left, the new owners sold it to Winnipeg. But problem in that city was where this arena was located. I've said this many times. I told Ted at the time, if you care about making the most money on your sports teams, you'll move the new arena to the northern suburbs. And he said to me he could not do that to the city of Atlanta, which had been so good to him. It has to be right where it is now. He also wanted to be able to walk next door to go to games. And he does not get enough credit for that decision because that was against his private business interests. He took less money to keep an arena downtown. And all of the development you've seen now around the Dome and around Phillips Arena, now State Farm Arena, was all because Ted's decision to leave the arena downtown. And he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I remember going to Braves games at the old Fulton County Stadium, and then the next stadium, and now they're in another stadium, right, which is in the northern suburbs.
Out in the suburbs where and doing great, which is what we told Ted would happen 30 years ago. Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but back in like the late 70s, 80s, there really weren't northern suburbs. I mean, you didn't have the freeway going out there, and it was kind of like farmland out there.
Well, we didn't have Georgia 400, and we didn't have a MARTA that went up that high. That's all there now. But the suburbs are enormous and growing and real hot spots. And the talk currently going on about maybe bringing a third hockey team there all revolves around the idea of putting a brand new arena up there where most of the fans live. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I've been asked about that on all sides. I just don't know what's going to happen.
So Stan, in 2003, you left Atlanta and then I assume you retired, or it was just a break?
I tell people I didn't know that I would do this again. These jobs are hard to come by. I didn't know what I would do. I was going to do a lot of speaking, and I started doing some writing. But turned out there was, thankfully, an awful lot of people that wanted me to come back and do this someplace else. So I connected with a wonderful family in Washington, the Lerner family. I had a group put together, and we merged our groups, and we convinced baseball to bring the Montreal Expos to Washington, where they were already committing to build a new stadium. And that was a lot of fun. And I love the city of Washington, and I still do.
But building something from scratch, especially in baseball,
it was a challenge. It was
unbelievable. And you had already built Phillips Arena. You're building a baseball stadium in Washington. I mean, it was
also building the fan base. Remember, they had not had baseball in Washington for 32 years.
Yeah. I remember the old Senators baseball cards I used to have.
Yeah. Mickey Mantle's longest home run in Griffith Park. Yeah. That's true. And so it was a blast. As I said, made a lot of friends in Washington. I called it accurately the most important city in the world. That was a real thrill. I got to spend time in the White House, at the Supreme Court, in the Capitol, and also every evening there's some embassy party with important people around to go to. And if you're the president of a local baseball team, you get invited to a lot of very fun, very cool things. So that was a lot of fun. Now, it wasn't a perfect match for me with that ownership group. Which is not a criticism of anyone. That was just for me and how I want to run things, build things. So I thought when I finished the 5 years I had committed, that I thought it was time to move on. Unlike the first time I did that, I thought, wait, now I really want to do this again because I thought I had some things to prove. And I got right to work on putting another group together. And when I met Mark Walter, he and I got together to buy the Houston Astros because that team was on the market at the time.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
And then halfway through that, I got a little whisper from Major League Baseball that something's about to happen with the Dodgers. And I told Mark about that, and he had the same reaction I did, which is, whoa, that's a horse of a different color.
Yeah.
To say the least. And so we made a mid-course correction and pursued the Dodgers as hard as we can with one change from what we were going to do with Houston. I said, okay, if we're going to LA, there's one person I need for you to meet because he should be with us. And that was Magic.
Yeah.
Whom I've known because we're all like a family in the NBA.
Yeah.
And Magic and Mark hit it off immediately, and we've all been together ever since.
Yeah, I mean, it truly was quote unquote magical. The dream team of an ownership group,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the success you guys have had. I mean, I don't know if you know my history with the Dodgers. I mean, I told you my Brooklyn Dodger history, but I became the Dodgers team photographer in 1984. And you'll love this. It was just starting my career.
Right.
I was like basically nobody, but I was going to Dodger games and getting credentials, and all of a sudden, it's some day in February, I get a call from at home, on the phone, and I pick it up, and it's an actual phone, and guy on the other side, he said, "Bernstein?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "It's Brenner." I said, "Steve Brenner?" Like, I had never really talked to Steve Brenner, although his name was on my credential. He goes, "You want to be my team photographer?" And I said, "What? You have two team photographers." He says, "Yeah, I just fired them. Do you want to come down to Vero Beach? Come down tomorrow." And hung up. That was the end. That was how I started. And then John Suhu started working with me, my dear friend, who's been
Yeah.
now 35, 6 years with the Dodgers. And I stayed with the Dodgers for 11 years. I was there in 88 for the championship. And
I
yeah,
didn't know that. I didn't know
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. No, I got Dodger blue. I'm wearing blue, and I got blue in my veins. And then, the NBA commitment became just too much of a year-round thing, and I had to really sadly had to walk away from the Dodgers and hand it over to John, who's obviously done an amazing job. But I still go back to Dodger Stadium, man, and that is no other place. I love Fenway Park, I love Wrigley, of course, but Dodger Stadium just has this mystique about it. You guys have reinvented it over and over again. It's
Yeah.
such a wonderful place to see a game.
Well, we're really proud of keeping what you love about it, what makes it so familiar and comfortable.
Yeah.
The panorama from foul pole to foul pole. We haven't changed anything. If you were comfortable here in 1962, it's going to feel the same to you.
Yeah.
But if you want modern 21st century amenities, we've got that for you too. It's never going to be a new stadium, but we can make it become someplace where you have a modern experience. And we're very proud that we've been able to do the amenity things while still honoring the history and the legacy. We knew coming in here what we were buying was that history and legacy. Now it was up to us to continue to honor that, and that's been a very important part of our mission here.
For sure. Did you guys go over 4 million last year or something?
Yeah,
That was
it's just a number.
yeah. I love
Yeah.
it.
Well, we're a little bit of a high wire act. Obviously, we need a lot of revenue
Yeah.
to spend the kind of money we spend.
Mm-hmm.
And when we spend that, we need revenue, which allows us to spend more, which requires even more revenue. So as I said, it's a high wire act, but because of the support of this fan base for 60 years, we thought that building the team and the organization this way would succeed, and so far it's worked out.
Yeah, you've seen some amazing athletes come and go. I mean, you talk about Magic. Of course, you and I were there for his whole career. I documented it. Dominique, of course. I mean, you had the pleasure and honor, I guess, of seeing Clayton Kershaw close his career last year. I mean, obviously, first ballot Hall of Fame. If there was a ballot before the first ballot, he'd be on it, right? But what an incredible person he is, and how he represented the city. It sort of harkens back to almost Sandy Koufax and the mystique of what he brought.
And I will tell you, I saw a lot of growth in the 14 years I have been with him.
Yeah.
He's changed a little, but what was consistent was he loved the team. He loved performing. He increasingly grew to understand his stature, which carried with it obligations that maybe other regular players don't really have to do. But he got more and more comfortable with it. And I would say, and along the way, he also had 4 and now coming with 5 kids. So he's had a lot of personal growth that I've been fortunate enough to be around with him and with Ellen. And first ballot Hall of Famer doesn't capture everything he meant to the organization and to the city. He's not from here, but he will always be identified with Los Angeles and with the Dodgers.
Yeah, for sure. I saw him pitch, a number of times, and it was just amazing. Stan, do you feel like you're like living like baseball history with the whole Ohtani phenomenon? I mean,
I
in
do.
your lifetime, did you ever think that you'd
No,
see you'd see a
I,
guy do what he
I
did?
absolutely do.
Yeah,
And how many times have we seen something that we say, I've never seen that before, or that can't be, or that's impossible.
yeah,
He
yeah.
can't do that.
Right.
And he would do it. And and on top of all of that, he's the most comfortable, down to earth guy around
Yeah,
the team in the locker room, which we did not know
yeah,
while he still had, the interpreter standing between him and everyone else. Once that wall came down and we could really get to know him,
hmm
I can't tell you, in terms of combination of the kind of player he is, the kind of athlete he is, and the kind of person he is, it's been literally a dream come true. I tell everyone around, I tell my grandkids, my kids grew up as Braves fans. My grandkids have only known Dodgers.
yeah,
And I tell them all, appreciate every day of this because
yeah,
it will come to an end someday. And you will be talking about this for the rest of your lives
yeah.
because this is not normal.
No, it's not normal.
It's super normal,
Yeah,
and we should all appreciate every day of it. And I
yeah,
try. I
yeah.
try.
For sure. I mean, it's so funny when baseball changed they brought in the DH and it was only in the American League. And then, of course, it's both
Yeah.
leagues. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes out of nowhere, literally, who can pitch and hit. And it's baseball like, oh, what do we do with this guy? It's like we just
Well,
changed the rules.
I tell people, he the year before last when he did 50-50, I tell people we know what a 50 home run hitter looks like.
Yeah.
We know how strong and big that person looks like. We know what a 50 base stealer looks like. Small, little, quick. Those are not the same bodies.
Yeah.
And here is this big guy who can do both. Oh, and by the way, he also
He
pitches.
also
Right?
pitches. Yeah. And he's
So, and
pretty
that's
damn good
never
on the mound.
I was asking the other day, we all compare him to Babe Ruth because the hitting and pitching, Babe really only did both for 1 year.
Is that
But
right? See, I didn't know
who's
that.
done it since?
Yeah,
Like,
nobody.
it's a century.
Yeah.
No one's even tried it
No.
since.
But that's
That's
why
extraordinary.
yeah, that's why I said you're living through baseball
Yeah.
history. I mean, it's sports history. It's incredible,
I, I, I
man.
did I
Yeah.
did get him to laugh once. He does the hitting, he does the base, he does the pitching. I go, have you ever tried switch hitting? He laughed. He said, no. I said, why not? You were doing everything else. And then the next thing I was going to ask him was switch pitching. But
Oh
no,
my
he,
God.
he decided not to do that. So
That's hilarious. You never know, man. He could show up in spring
I
training with
wouldn't,
like two
I
gloves.
wouldn't put it past him.
Um,
Wouldn't put it past him.
so Stan, our good friend, my really good friend Bill Plaschke wrote a beautiful piece about you. I think it was in 2013,
Yeah.
where he said that you have, quote, a relentless optimism, end quote. Where does that come from? Because I've always
Um,
felt that from you. Your presence, you just have this optimistic air.
because I get to do this every day,
Hmm
Andy, and
Yeah.
you know what that means. I mean, people ask me what's my favorite part. My favorite part is the hour before the game starts,
Mm-hmm.
the anticipation, the
Mm-hmm.
energy in the arena or in the stadium. Everyone's about to experience something that is brand new and will
Yeah.
never be repeated. Um, and we get to do this every day of our lives. I've been walking the halls and the back of arenas and stadiums for almost 50 years. And that, for a kid who grew up like I did,
hmm
loving watching this, I can't even believe it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't be happy and optimistic about this, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And you should have figured out something else to do long before 50 years have passed.
Yeah, no, and you just brought up growing up a kid like you did. Your parents, obviously, we all know Holocaust survivors.
Yeah.
You grew up in an Orthodox home,
Yeah.
spoke Yiddish. My aunt who lived in Atlanta spoke Yiddish. One of her favorite expressions was "Asman schmiert fortman." If you
Yeah.
grease it, it'll run. And I've always used that in business or even
Yeah.
in my relationships. Um, and you've spoken so eloquently in things that I've seen in interviews about your father, who was not a sports fan, right?
Not at all.
But could you talk about just your upbringing and what that brought and his history? Like, the very
Um,
famous quote, "His memories, my lessons."
yeah. Yeah. Well, I grew up and, like kids grow up and they're going to be told about Shohei Ohtani.
Mm.
I grew up and I was told about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
and a lot, like every day. But the good news was the end of every lesson was how lucky I was to be here, to be in America.
Yeah.
And no, my parents didn't know anything about sports. They were thrilled when I had chosen a path for myself and became a lawyer, an Ivy League lawyer. They were really excited about that. They were crushed when I told them, no, I wasn't going to open up a little law office in New Jersey. I was going to move to Atlanta to work for a guy they'd never heard of, to be with a baseball team. You're going to what? Yeah, that was a hard conversation.
I could imagine.
But eventually,
yeah,
they got a sense that whatever the hell it was I was doing, I was having some success with. And so they felt better, and they never stood in my way. But yeah, it was a culture shock for them, for sure.
Yeah, I believe it, man. Well, so much, we talk forever, Stan, and I hope we get to sit down at some point in the game or whatever, but I will see you at Dodger Stadium sometime early in the season, because my daughter, who is a senior in high school, will be singing the anthem. Lon Rosen promised me. She sang in a Laker game a few weeks ago, and will be singing the anthem, and her daughter is Mimi, by the way, which I know is your sister's name.
Yeah. So, I might see it before that at Crypto, because as you know, we have some interest in the Lakers.
Yeah, that's the last thing I was going to ask you. So I feel like it's like Godfather 3. I mean, they keep pulling you back in. Like, what's next?
More than once I have thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, what's going to happen what is your role going to be?
Oh, it's going to be, well,
yeah.
I'm on the board. Lon Rosen's on the board.
Sure.
But it's Mark Walter and his whole collection of pieces, adding this piece to the Lakers. Jeannie remains in charge, and Lon's known Jeannie since he started. I've known Jeannie since I've started. I was in the NBA at the vote the day that Jerry Buss was voted into the league. I've been in the league longer than Jerry Buss. That's how long I knew him, and I guess I knew Jeannie whenever she got involved. So this is incredibly comfortable. We have the best owner in sports in Mark Walter. Now he's there to help Jeannie realize whatever else she wants to realize. It's incredibly comfortable. Very excited about the future. I know Mark has no other ambitions but returning a world championship to the Lakers and to Crypto. And I have no doubt we will do that.
Well, as we're wrapping this up, I'm feeling like a Phil Jackson vibe here about full circle. Phil used to talk a lot about full circle experiences. You know, we started this conversation about the Atlanta Hawks, and now you're going back to the NBA. It truly has to be a full circle experience.
Well, then you can't leave out my most recent thing of which I'm proud, which is the creation of the PWHL. First real professional women's hockey league. 61 of our players are right now in Milan.
Amazing.
Playing in the Olympics. Again, this was something completely supported by Mark Walter. He asked me to do it, which again was such a dumb idea. I told him that, but I said, could I do it? Yeah, I guess I can. And it's taken off. Incredibly proud of the women and all that we've accomplished together.
Well, Stan, I know you got a lot more energy and things to do, and I'm just so excited for you as a person, and all my friends, you know, Lon and everyone, Steve, my buddy John Suhu. It's just, I feel like I'm still part of the family, you know, sort of on the outside, like maybe a third cousin, but it's just so great to connect with you, man. Thanks so much. And by the way, we're recording this like a couple of days after your birthday, so happy birthday. We're not going to release it until right before the season starts, but happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you, and it's always good seeing you. You're right, we go back a long ways, and I'm proud and blessed to have had that relationship.
Thank you, Stan. Well, best of luck into the next season, of course, with the Dodgers and everything you got going on with everything else. And I'll see you at Chavez Ravine at some point, man. Okay, buddy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Stan.
Bye.
So perfect to kick off the start of the 2026 Major League Baseball season with this conversation with the legendary Stan Kasten. Big thanks to Stan for taking the time, and to my longtime friend and former boss, Steve Brenner, for helping to set up this interview. Thanks always to our editors, Sean Gosser and Addison Shao. And thanks to everyone for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We are thankful to all our loyal followers. Please tell all your friends to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Legends of Sport, and our Instagram at Legends of Sport, and my Instagram at ADBPhoto Inc. Folks, please check out the discount link in our social media to our good friends at Mugsy. We absolutely love Mugsy's clothes, and I know you will too. And the discount link to our friends at You Should, the best way you should protect your skin for work, play, and everyday life. Thanks again, folks. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Legends of Sport podcast.